Our first reader is going to be Karl Michael Iglesias, who is an actor, director, and author from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Oh, there we go. Sorry. He is formerly the creative director for the Office of Multicultural Art Initiatives at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And he's discovering his love for the stage through international spoken word festivals and as an MC. Karl is open regionally for notable acts including Anderson .Paak. Is that how you say it? Yeah, I have no idea who these people are. Mac Miller, Chance the Rapper, Ludacris, and Kendrick Lamar, among others. Karl's poetic voice resonates beyond the performance space and can be found in distinguished publications including the Florida Review, Rhino Poetry, Brooklyn Review, Madison Review, and Breakbeat Poets Volume 4 Latinx. He is also the author of a new chapbook, Catch a Glow, which is absolutely amazing and which Sue has back there. And he just spent a week at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., where they were workshopping a stage production of the book. Karl lives in Brooklyn, and he's going to be part of the Brooklyn Poets Poetry Festival, yes? So if this isn't enough, go on over to Brooklyn for May 24th through 26th, which is part of what Karl is going to be there for. Part of why I wanted to bring Karl to Brookville was his amazing poetry and this powerful new collection. His poems are full of linguistic dazzle, rhythmic lines, energized fragmentation, and evocative silences. They leap from the page and beg to be heard. In addition to these well-employed poetic strategies, though, the poems are full of empathy, recreating a time, the blackout in particular in Puerto Rico during and after Hurricane Maria, when out of the most dire of circumstances, the dignity and the strength of the Puerto Rican people is captured. Poem after poem in the book ask us to consider whom are we abandoning as a country, and how might we take better care of one another? And so I'm really excited to have Karl here to share this important book. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. How's everybody doing out there? How's everybody doing out there? Yeah. Thank you. Came a whiles away on this train from Brooklyn, so I'm going to be a little bit energetic up here, but thank you for your time, and thank you for those wonderful, kind words about our work. It really means the world to me. So I'm going to dig into a couple of poems from the book. I'm also going to read some newer poems as well. I'll save them for a little later. But it's really true that this book was a labor of love in a world where I wasn't sure what to do. My conscience and my heart told me to go to what I knew, which was poetry. And my journey of poetry starts from when I was 16 years old, and as it's been revealed, had a whole rap career in my early 20s as well, but don't really do that as quite as much anymore. However, it is still a very big part of who I am and how I write and where I write and why I write it. So I'll share some of the poems from the book. Some of them will be maybe back to back, and I might stop in between some of them. All right? Sound good? Awesome. Some stuff in this book is a little heavy, a little deep, right? But at the same time, there's going to be some joy in the midst of all of this, and that really is intentional as well. So if you feel moved to snap, you can do that, right? If you feel moved to say something, that's okay too. You want to speak back to me, that's okay too. Don't use full sentences, please. But just like grunts and stuff are totally fine, all right? What I'm saying is, let this be a conversation between us, not me lecturing at y'all. Is that all right? All right. Thank you. Open for business. Timbales calling from the lobby at the San Juan Marriott Resort and Casino, which was finally packed with fanning tourists. And not just emergency workers checking in, air-conditioned, skin-peeling savior spends on sites. Mountain communities are still desperate for power, supplies, Damaged resorts, attention. Hotels are back up and running. Industry is critical. Long-term recovery here. It's like the storm came through yesterday, said the mountains of Yabukua, along with their children, been relying on a generator to survive. We need help. Another night in limbo, spent on the porch in the dark. Ofrenda. Joselito has a generator that his son sent him from Florida. He has been using it to power the floodlight down the road every evening since Dia de los Reyes, offering our barrio a makeshift lamppost, Calle's North Star. I take a little shine from my neo moon to inspect how my calloused fingers translate chords. My hamaca offers the usual waltz. I offer Pitoro de Quenepa to Evelyn and her husband next door, but they never accept. She offers una tacita tibia, and how could I say no? I offer my cuatro, cup of humming sugar. My quickened bones croon a bolero out. The night is warm brick of chocolate surrendering to simmered milk. Sweet blood, I offer tune to relentless mosquitoes baiting the bats. They offer salsa, offer clashing shadows and their best smile. Swift wings, a striking turn of page. I can barely read the notes off my crinkled hymnal, but if I angle it just right, I can catch a glow over my shoulder, and I play on. Coquis whistle by the thousands, offer to fill the air with a call and response, a coro pregón of burning candles on porches, listening constantly. Joselito keens that his son is not coming back, but should hear from him soon. So you see, some of these poems are going to be from, in that case, perspectives of other people. And some of these people I literally found from newspaper articles talking about these people, and I just decided, well, let me write from their point of view what that night must have been like. And there's that sprinkled through in a lot of moments within the book. This next poem is called Newborn Declares Independence Inside Vieques Hospital. Hurricane Maria closes Vieques' only labor and delivery room. And deliver me again. Burst me into your occasional rooster, a paranda through the ribs. Do not hold me. Who rocks the ark of my crib is my God. And you took my mama because you couldn't deliver her son. And now I, godless, baby howl, pitter-pat, finger paint on the walls of Congress. Left the hotel that FEMA stopped paying for on Friday. Ended up at a shelter after action, making the president look bad. Hibiscus yawns on a once road, baked in clay. Cabo Rojo to Brooklyn. Trickle of feet is dew drip. This is the first morning of homelessness. Making the president look bad. My family's everywhere. You see Taliana and her son FaceTiming Theo Cruz on the curb. Soul, our grand marshal, cries in Spanish in the wake, making the president look bad in a warning by the unsung agency in the parade, in a hotel lobby by the airport. There is nowhere to warm, churn a family laugh. There ain't goodwill for evicted psalms pinned, making the president look bad. Blue birds saying everything they heard from someone else. The rent late, displaced on the balls of feet. Trauma for thunder. Bruno, lying on asphalt, emergency lane, and we worry for the length of rest in a blanket of sirens, and the Atlantic Ocean ruins, and they build their beacon and cause the brick tower to deteriorate, and they lit a donation and welcome the streetlight. And ain't it hard just to live? Thank y'all, thank y'all, thank y'all. Truly appreciate y'all being here with me and being here today to hear some poems. It is our job, at least I believe as a poet to be the scribe of your histories, you know. And sometimes our histories are our family's histories and our people's histories, but it's kind of our job, you know. And there's a lot of labor in this book to try to do that. So I hope that from today, if you're still a little bit curious about like how do I become this poet that I want to be, consider those things. What are your histories, your family's histories, your people's histories? Start there and see what you can document, right? The good work. So I'm gonna read a poem now, and later I'll read a poem that responds to this poem that's in my next book. But this one is called Half of the Parrots Disappeared. Near the south's end of the viaduct, the tropical forest, I stand with the pummeled mountain of 24 kids from the neighborhood. A couple of turquoise-tipped wings, sunshine from crashing, passion fruit without canopy. I want laws that shake hands. I am of the shaken, the ones who recover through gardening, camouflage, a fledgling coalition of churches headquartered at the end. I go in more resistant to hurricanes, and I only face hurricanes. Topple the nest after I break through the shell, my vital recovery for the species. We handful the dirt, get another flock reintroduced wild. I boycotted grapes up when the march cut through 6th Street, now returned with Southside English, because you can't turn the D's, those, and that off, or not want to send all the money you make back to your family. It's gonna be the last poem from my book that I'm gonna read. If you're following along, it's on page 25. Shout out in the back. But this is called Eulogy for a Mango Tree, and this poem came to me while reading an article in the New York Times about a journalist who went back to Puerto Rico after Maria and saying that their childhood home was completely leveled, but what they would miss the most was their mango tree, because it was raised to the ground, because it knew all of his secrets. And I was like, wow. Eulogy for a Mango Tree. I'm still the boy in the navy shorts, running around you with my shirt wrapped around my head, lifting a fallen branch, now a leafed sword. You whisper a breeze I could barely hear, and I nod as if I understand. Did you think less of me when home was a spiraled gust and I returned to the thunder of my birth? Fist rushing into walls, hiding violently. Some secrets sound like boiling salt water, don't they? Carved my name into you with a parrot's claw. You were there. I fell asleep outside my door on Cobble Road. Did you whisper our stories to the horses in summer? On the darkest nights where I'd stumble home, a puddle of myself, why didn't you just drink me? God lift you, wake me up with sweet prayers as if to not embarrass me. Who else do you offer refuge in your shadows? What other faces have you saved? You understood that the stars don't need to see everything. So when the sky arrived masked as a bursting mango, I'd share a cafecito with you. Scoff in your bark. You admit you thought you'd never see the day I'd like my coffee without cream. It's my secret to everlasting life. What's yours? Tell me. Tell me. Thank you, and I just got a couple more poems and I'm gonna be out of your way, all right? This next poem is a response to a poem you just heard not too long ago. It's called Half of the Parrots Recovered. This actually came from an assignment in a class where it was like, take one of your old poems and write a response to it. And I took one from the book, and this is gonna be in the next book, which is exciting. So Half of the Parrots Recovered. The block is pecking through the early motions. Showing up was half of the struggle, and the struggle was a beach worth of sand. Recovery is a spiritual process that could fill a Brooklyn tree with parrots. More of a ritual than a protest. The parrots flew in on a journal entry, and boy, are their wings tired of thinking they can make a difference. The coffee seems to be part of this revolution too, and the summer sidewalk has begun to crawl. The trees we got last year have become neighbor kin and have dressed up in migrating quill. Outside my window are thousands of childhood days that follow me in technicolor plumage. They have filled the trees like sap. These days I collect and repeat as folklore. Every branch is reaching out to affirm the self. And who am I to deny who I am? Every branch is filled with potential flight and a history of beaks that intended on laying low until viejito, that repeat name after name after name after name after name after name after name, saying a prayer for a boy who died in a protest in Milwaukee for the right to righteousness. Another says a joke about imposter syndrome. One repeated it, unknowing of its place of origin. Another repeated it, and the truth made it burst angels like a pillow fight. One is repairing their Spanish as they speak. Brrr, hey, make some noise out there, please. Please, please, please. This is my last poem, y'all. I came a long way. Let's make some noise. Thank you. It is funeral quiet out there sometimes. And I'm I come from Pentecostal funerals and stuff, and they be hooting and hollering and the Holy Ghost and stuff. But this is my last poem, y'all. First and foremost, one, I do understand some of my poems are a little heavy in subject matter. I thank you all for being with me and during this process. This poem is no different. But it is a poem that it will also be in the next book as well, and it's featured in the Brooklyn Review. And this poem is a response to a passing of, at the time, a rapper who goes by the name of Nipsey Hussle. But I've mentioned this to the poets in the room, that we write what we know. And although that's how the poem started, I ended up just really talking about loss and my own grief. And so here's this poem. It is called On Being Vulnerable. And this is dedicated to all the young men who may be having a little difficulty being their true self. On being vulnerable. The ocean invited me to twist out the abandoned. A wrung out drop. You ever pour out a stream of brew for the homies? For someone you have never met, but they remind you of the homies? I thought I would send what's left out of my legs to tread the murk and save a body like my body. Do you need any help? I can be vulnerable too and drown in front of you. A buried bronze hand sign cut from wrist. Feel me? I thought I was shot and you ran out of the parking lot and I became concrete immortal, returning for you. Out of time and into heavy tide, I draw in air and my rib cage fills with wrestlers. Would you hold my body down like your body? Hold your breath like your brother? Thank you. Again, my name is Karl Michael Iglesias. Feel free to say what up after the show. I'll be right around and happy to talk to everybody. Thank you for having me.